It's up.
I'll keep getting the other one.
All right.
Might be looking different. Let's try.
I just went to the like site.
Okay, which one is that? Is that this one right here? The one with 36?
No, I don't know. I haven't figured that out. So I'm going to eventually put a link here.
Very cool. Oh, that's okay.
There isn't one there now, but there's, so did you not send that out to everybody?
Yeah, I clicked on the link that came here.
No, it's, I thought as much. So, yeah, I can't. I searched for it myself, but I can't. It doesn't find it. And if you do that search, it doesn't find it.
What's the...
All right, you ready?
All right.
YouTube.com/share.
I don't think it doesn't feel that that's good.
That should do it. So we're stuck.
Test, test.
All right. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello? Good. Okay, so we're at 6:30, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Pastor Gordy, can you start us with a prayer? Pastor Pringy's out there, yeah. So if you could start us with one, that'd be great. Oh, yep.
Can you turn up the volume? It's a little soft.
I guess it's a little soft.
Stand close.
Let's bow our heads to pray. Dear Lord Jesus, we give you thanks for the blessings of bringing us safely to a new year, and that you have gathered us all together this evening with good health and safety. We pray as we discuss the business of your kingdom that you would bless us as we consider that work. Open up our ears so that we might hear the things that you are accomplishing through your people, and open up our hearts that we might continue to share the new life that is inside of us with the community around us. We pray your blessing on all that is accomplished today. May your kingdom come and flourish among us. We begin in your name. Amen.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. Is that a little bit better? Can everyone hear me? Okay, sorry about that. Right, just a housekeeping note tonight. We're scheduled to start obviously at 6:30 here. I got a work meeting at 7 o'clock, so Pastor Prangy's, we're going to tag team this. So depending on how long we go, I'll sneak out and he's going to fill in for me, just so you know what's going on. All right, so you have the information packet that was at the door and also, I believe, sent out in emails. So the first thing we have is our agenda on the packet, and so we just have a need to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, unless there are any any changes to it that anyone has? No. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Terry? And a second? Gary? Yep. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Then another housekeeping item, the minutes that we had from the October meeting, we did not include in the packet tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip that, and we're just going to approve those at the next meeting because we didn't have time to approve those. We can have those available online if everybody wants to read through those just as a review, and then next month we'll do the October and this January meeting minute approval. So then we'll move into the submitted reports from the different executive board members. They're in your packet for review, and I'll just entertain any questions from the field at this time. Yes, Larry.
One question in the report that I can refer to, and I was asked this, so I'm looking for an answer. We talk about the health committee. What does that acronym stand for?
Judy, where is Judy here tonight? Yeah, Judy's here. What does HELP stand for?
It stands for hope, encouragement, love, and patience.
For those,
And our purpose is to help the community in whatever way we can and try to get more people to come into our church through some of the projects that we're doing. And our ham dinner was a success, and we did have people come in, and the answers have been contacting about 48 families. And our next project is going to be a food drive, and it's going to be a drive-through food drive on March 5th. And that will be at New Life East. We are asking people to bring us food, and there are boxes now set up in all of the sites so that donations can be given, and then they will be distributed to families in the community. Anything else you need to know?
excellent. Can the people online hear?
They probably did not hear.
Probably did not hear that.
I was told the sound was great when you or I speak down there.
Okay, so just for the people online, the question was what does HELP stand for? Help me. It stands for hope, encouragement, love, patience. And it's a community outreach group to help with. Did Tim grab the? Oh. Okay. So moving forward, we'll have the mic distributed to help people online hear the questions. So it's a community. They had a dinner this past fall to help with the homeless, and they also do other outreach work to help with people in need. Any other questions? Okay, then moving on to new business. From the pastor's report, we have membership changes. So we'd just like to try to officially approve those. So those are for your review in the first ministry report handout. So can I get a motion to approve the membership changes? Thank you. And a second? From Boyd? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Then back to the agenda. What we had is, for new business, we just had one item. We were just going through the Constitution bylaws, and we were going to, the executive board met and approved the suggestion that we change the bylaws slightly, just to clarify the auditing committee description of there, and that we would just have an audit available after prior to the fiscal year from the previous one. So the from language is there as it exists, and we are recommending changing that to the to language that is there. Yes, Larry.
In the recommended change, Are we good now? All right.
There you go.
The frequency changes, which makes a lot of sense, but we also dropped the wording about providing a report of their findings. And I'm wondering why we did that. Because as the change reads, the committee has no requirement to provide any kind of report.
I'm just, yep, yes.
Simply a typographical error by the dummy that was typing it. So, not unique.
Okay, so what we'll do, just for the meeting, for the minutes, so what Larry is referring to is the last phrasing of the previous version or the existing version where it says, and make a report of its findings to the congregation in the annual and third quarter meetings. So I'm going to propose that should say, we'll append that to the updated language where it will say, prior to the annual congregation meeting from the previous fiscal year, and make a report of its findings to the congregation in the annual
I'd be good with just
meetings.
make a report of its findings to the congregation.
Okay, perfect. So we'll have that in there for clarification. As Pastor Prangy said, that was a typographical error, so it didn't make it here. So apologies for that. Good catch. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion to approve that change then? Terry, thank you. A second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to then invite up Scott from the Finance Committee just to give an update on where we are financially.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with this graph that I believe you should have picked up. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but the blue bars are the current year's budget for offerings. And it's just offerings. It's not all receipts because there's other receipts like rent and tuition payments and things like that. But this is just for the church, and this is offerings. And the pattern that's there, it says seasonally adjusted, which means we looked back at the last 2 years and looked at the pattern of giving on a monthly basis and just took an average, basically, of the 2 years as far as the percentage we collected in each month. So you can see, obviously, November and December typically are months we collect more offerings. March and April are higher because probably in the last 2 years, Easter fell in each one of those months. And so those months tend to be a little bit higher. But you can see the red bar is what we've actually collected so far for the first 6 months of the year, and you can see we're behind. So those numbers will translate into the next schedule in a minute. But I'll just stop there if there's any questions on the graph. Okay, go to then the next one. You have a page of the financial reports. Go to the one with the 2 boxes. I think you have there's 2 different sides. So on the right side is the summary of the offerings by month, which would be basically mirroring that graph. And those are the actual numbers. So you can see in just to the right of center there, over short of budget. So just focusing on that. So we're almost $79,000 short of offerings for the first 6 months of the year, which is about 10%, or 11% is there. When we reported last quarter, which would have been in last October, for the first quarter, we were behind about 10%. So we aren't sliding any farther behind, but we're pacing at the same level. So I would expect by the end of the year, we won't be quite double because the beginning of the year is a higher offering months. But we probably will be about 10% behind, which would be about $140,000 roughly for the year if we continue at the same pace. Does that make sense? So at the end of September, we were about 30,000 behind budget. On the left side is a very high-level, brief summary of the financials, and I will admit our financials are still a work in progress. We're making good progress with the accounting firm. They had COVID that wiped out their office for about 3 weeks in the middle of the quarter, so they were a little behind. But we've made up most of the time and gotten almost everything pretty much up to date. We're still working on the balance sheet and some of the accruals. But if you look at the actual column, you'll see that we're roughly $48,000, that's the left column, $48,000 under budget, or I'm sorry, short, which means expenses exceeded revenues by about $48,000. And I'm sure you all remember this, but at the end of September, we were $59,000. So we're catching up. We're moving in the right direction. But you'll see there, if you look at the better or worse column, the right column there, compared to budget, we're about $77,000 behind budget. Because our budget should have put us $28,000 ahead, if you look at the middle column, bottom number. And usually through December, we're usually in pretty good shape because we just went through the 2 months, November, December, with the highest offering. But I think you should take note that the deficit that we're showing there, $77,000, is approximately the same as the offering shortfall. The rest of it is just kind of our best guess at the budget when we merged, because we knew some places we'd have some efficiencies, and we also discussed the fact that there's a lot of unknowns in the merger, things that we would have to deal with. And we were positioned quite well to deal with those things because we knew we came in with a cash surplus. So this $77,000 shortfall doesn't mean we're borrowing money. We still have some cash and some cash reserves. But it's always concerning when we're not meeting budget. So I'm just making everybody aware of that. Questions on the church financials? Dave? Oh, that's all right. So the cash, the cash is about $350,000 at this point, and that is unrestricted cash. Now that is both the church and the school combined, because I looked at it as at a total. So I don't have the breakdown in my head right now. And when we get to the next page or the other side of this page, you'll see that the school is roughly $200,000 behind. So that's already counted in, because we started out with over $800,000 worth of cash between the three churches, Bethany, Frieden's, and Mount Zion, coming in. Unrestricted. That's not any restricted funds for special purposes. That was unrestricted. So we've burned through roughly $400,000 already. Partly because of shortfall, partly because of some building projects that we had in process, at Frieden's anyway, I should say, had some building projects in process that were not all funded by restricted funds.
And that's where my question starts.
Yeah.
So you've got $117,000 overage in the school budget for improvements that were made.
Correct.
And I'm assuming that's outside of the lease.
Yeah, you're going to the right place. So go to the school budget, or the school financials, which is the side with just one box. You'll notice at the bottom there, I see there's a typo, it says 202, but if you look at the schedule, we're $204,000 behind. And the first line there, which is what Dave's referring to, is $117,000 of unbudgeted maintenance and repairs. Now, some of those were unbudgeted maintenance and repairs, but there's also some things that we believe were probably covered by restricted funds, and we're sorting through that. There's not a lot of restricted funds left, but there is some restricted funds that number hopefully will get reduced by some of the restricted funds.
What's your best guess?
As a transfer.
What's your best guess?
I see on Frieden's, coming over from Frieden's, I can only speak to Frieden's books because I'm familiar with those, there was $50,000.
Oh, okay, so that's significant.
So I'm hoping close to half of this could disappear.
But the school rent is behind by $23,000. Is that a cash issue because they're running behind in their budget, or is it a timing issue?
Yes and no. Part of it is when we did the budget, we figured, and the way we were going to do it is X dollars per month. But in the transition, we moved whatever cash was needed in the process. So I know right now the church, or the school, I'm sorry, has plenty, KLA has plenty of cash, because it's a matter of timing with when we get school choice money. So the need does not mirror an even 1/12 of their budget. So I know that we haven't stuck real well with the budget because of some of the school choice funds.
So the 37,000 in the school choice deficit is probably going to come eventually.
Yes, definitely. Yep. Well, I think and Dave Wobeck, can you answer that better than I can? Because I'm thinking.
Say no, I don't think. I'm glad you called me. So I think the answer is no. Our budget had less. We budgeted for more school choice dollars, and we had a family of 5 left.
I was just saying that I think that is a real number. I think that reflects just where we thought we were going to be with school choice enrollment, and then having that be less than budget. So I think that, but I mean, it's going to stay steady. That number is not going to increase because it's when Scott and Holly put these budgets together, they factor where things are going to go.
Yeah. And I'll have to acknowledge Holly Jute put these together, so that's why I'm trying to remember where the numbers were from the way I think about it. But the other point I'll make, or I'm sorry, did you have another question? Or?
I do, but go ahead.
Well, I was just going to look, the next line there, pension costs, $35,000. You know, say, okay, what's happening there? And I believe that is supposed to say pension and health insurance. Those items are paid quarterly, and we tend to pay before the quarter starts. So what's in the budget right now, or what's in actual, is 3 quarters worth, because they aren't adjusting the accruals on a quarterly basis. It'll probably clean it up at the end of the year with the audit, but I did see on July 1, we had a quarterly payment. Well, it was an accrual because of the audit. And then I see we paid 2 more quarters, which would be the normal cash basis process that we go through. So there's a number of things in here that I know are a little squishy and are going to have to get cleaned up.
All right, so now that I've got my mind wrapped around these numbers, is there a tuition assistance account?
Yes.
And how much is in there? You had to guess.
Shoot, we just talked about that last. 18, is it 18? Yeah, it's in the teens. And we have used some of that this year. Two of the churches both Frieden's and Bethany's had a fairly nice KLA tuition assistance. Frieden's also has a Shoreland tuition assistant account. And then there's also an MLC tuition assistance account for those going on to MLC, Martin Luther College.
Okay, and then my last question is, from a capital standpoint, do we have funds there have we started a fund that's set aside for replacement of roofs, furnaces, stuff we know is going to be a problem in the years ahead? There
is 2 funds. One is called a new church fund, and I forget if it's called new church or new building. So the monies that are in that fund, which came over restricted, not included in any of this, but there is a separate report for restricted. Those funds are if we build a new facility someplace. But there's another fund called building improvements or property improvements or something like that. And there is money sitting in that fund also. I couldn't tell you right now how much, but it's a sizable chunk of change. I'm sorry, Mike? Yeah, there's a number. Yeah, Mike's been doing a great job of pulling together a list of all the projects that we need. We're trying to get a handle on what commitments do we have right now of, not necessarily commitments, but needs among the facilities. Because as you know, some of the facilities are aging and are going to need some attention. Plus, we're also looking at technology needs because all the churches were in a different place technology-wise. And so we're trying to address that also. Pastor.
Just for everyone's information, this was reported at the executive board meeting. There's $43,000 in the capital improvement fund.
Okay.
$338,000 plus in the new building fund.
Thank you. Other questions?
So how long is, or does the finance committee discussed how long this is sustainable, the budget shortfall? With, you know, what'd you say, we had 320?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. We have not. We want to we're trying to make sure that before we start doing projections like that, which really needs to be done, is try to make sure all the accounting is caught up, and we're very close. We want to get the balance sheets and the, you know, the beginning equity. The audits are now done. The audits were finalized in this last quarter, and we probably would be completed except for the COVID issues that the office had. So once we get that done, we can now turn around and look at where we are from a financial standpoint and start doing some stewardship planning going forward. It's actually a very good point.
And Scott, just a point of clarification from the meeting Tuesday night, you had cash balances unrestricted for our entities at 486.
So it was 350 the decline? Maybe I got the numbers
350
mixed
was
up.
the decline.
Okay.
So we're at almost 500,000
Yeah,
cash balance unrestricted right now.
there you go. Sorry about that. Yeah, we dropped about 350,000 from where we were at the beginning of the merger, 7/1 of 21. So the 400,000 number is the correct number. Other questions? Then that is there are some other points under deficits there, some budget changes, just trying to do an analysis of the various lines. One of the things we'll probably be doing is providing for both the principals and administrative staff of the churches a detailed account by account variance so that we can start digging into, okay, were we overspending, underspending? We knew coming into the merger that there would be some transitional type costs. For example, we did the celebration, if you recall, at Shoreland. None of that type of expense was budgeted. So those are things that are now reflected in these financials that we didn't budget for, let's put it that way. But we knew we were going to have some of those items. Other questions?
Was there anything looked at after the audit regarding using choice funds to offset some of the spending we did on the capital improvement projects?
I'm sorry, run that by me again.
We were looking at doing some of the capital improvement projects at Frieden's last year. We were looking at maybe harvesting some money out of the restricted fund, the choice reserve fund. Was anything discussed with that?
So, yeah, after the audit, we probably are overfunded. Well, I know we're overfunded right now in our choice reserve. So the choice reserve fund, if that's what you're asking about, is a fund that, so school choice gives us funding for the school based on our enrollment. And based on our operating costs, they give us a dollar amount. And they have a standard dollar amount that they say we are entitled to. But if we don't meet our share of the spending, we have to put that money into a reserve because theoretically we owe it back to choice reserve. But they don't want the money back. They just say someday you might have to pay it back. They just want to make sure that we're solvent enough in order to pay it back if needed at some point in time. Last year, at the end of the school year, we had $340,000 in a separate fund, and it's still there for choice reserve. The new report came in a little bit less than that for Frieden's, and I want to say it's closer to $300,000. So there's probably, to your point, roughly $40,000 that we can free up and move into KLA as unrestricted cash. That was not included in the cash amounts that we were talking about. Was it 480?
486.
486. Good question. Thank you, everyone.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all that we have for either new business or old business on our agenda. Are there any other last moment items that somebody would like to bring up or ask about? Jeff in the back. Oh, it's not Jeff, it's Andy, sorry. I'm sorry? I still missed it, something about pastors.
How come only half
Oh.
the pastors are here?
Sorry, I'm an old man. Well, because some of them are,
Teaching catechism,
yep,
we've got two that are sick, I believe.
yep. One's at catechism, Pastor Scoggins has catechism today, or this evening, and two of them, I don't know, there's this virus going around. So, but I didn't give any official report there. Pastor Gordy.
Do we have to accept new members?
We already did.
Oh, we did, okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Dave Riley, any seconds? Oh, Terry Evans. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? This is the plan for congregational meetings, that they not be long. We just, I can give you a very brief, a few of us had a meeting today with Grace in Action, which is not really a consulting group in our synod, but it is a group of folks who really help congregations get their vision tracking and organizational stuff together. And one thing that they emphasized even in their presentation is to have 10-point or 10-star meetings, which means you say we're going to get started here and we're going to end here, and you keep to it. So that's very much a culture that we are looking to instill where we have short meetings. So that's all I'm going to say. Go home.
ideas to talk to people, and we have to talk to them. Now we're building another budget. I don't think we're approving moving any budget officially until we're to the balance, budget and stuff like that. And maybe we get to the end of budget, gosh, this spending is not going to happen again for sure. We're not going to be able to do this again, or we're not going to spend this much on technology again.
We only did this much of the work. And there's a basement.
But where I'm going with that is, it's tough to say that we're doing something. I like your support, I always want to support you, and I appreciate the first rounder, and I share that.
Because I think the ratio thing is a good idea. Under 20 because
I just got their mailer.
Those are like the marketing numbers. I want to hear like, what is it really? Principal explain behind the scenes.
Well, so you don't know any of the teachers?
What do you mean? Oh, okay. Machinified? Yeah, if you want to find back, find this. We have enough then. How much do you want to pay? Some classrooms last year, 25 kids in the class. Why they give them a teacher assistant? And yet we still aren't dealing with max staff. What's wrong with our numbers? And why are we stretching so fast?
Yeah, either way.
Because KLA is budgeting to break even. And so when we charge $0 for a full amount, the church gives it to us. But then it affects the church.
And you saw all the red ink.
That's the thing. When we were trying to do our budgets last year, we were doing it, trying to look back at COVID budgets, we were going back to previous year. All this stuff is so, Scott's a smart guy, but I mean, you don't have your firm base. It's not like the one congregation for 10 years and take back 10 years. Never a good idea. I mean, it's like coming together. I would say, you all came together and everybody had a lot of gas. I want this, I want that, we need doors, we need this, we need tables, we need things. And they're bringing it back to the last minute. And so now, and that happened at the school site too. We're like, hey, we need playground equipment for the whole campus, right? Going back. Trying to entice people, especially at the whole campus, to get them in and build them up. Do we want to entice them and say, here's some bullshit? Or here's a metal frame that, I mean, there's little to nothing. I mean, my kids have played on it this summer after church. I mean, they find something. Yes, there's like, I mean, there's nothing to do.
You're going to find that with a piece of glass.
Yeah. So you made the decision to buy it. It's going to get installed.
What do you do?
Almost the same.
I wouldn't either. Oh, gosh, yeah.
By all means, if people came to the company that's installing it, take down there.
So, what would I tell you?
The nature was movable, as you don't know what we're going to do. What cost? We were always sure that again, I can never promise that people's feedback comes to fruition, but it's definitely.
I get that too. We should hear all the voices and give me input.
Speaking of voices, I was going to set this to you. This is Lucas. So to explain the different prayers, and like we have never tried to teach him yet, Father. But like one night, because he hears this duo, all of a sudden this came out of nowhere. say 4, but he would correct me. He's very proud of that.
Even though I don't always 13 that. Because she's been saying it for 3 months. Her birthday is next month.
Yeah, you want to do that. It's always not going anywhere. Well, I mean, he's not, it's physically not moving very much. Yeah. Because of his health yesterday, so, there's not, nothing doing that. There's nothing to prove.
Austin from
Traveling there, it's cheap these days. You and Randy and Jess, his cousin,
Yeah.
you guys been talking in virtual meetings or in person, right?
Have done any virtual. Sorry, we're waiting for or something like this.
Nice guy.
So, thank you.
It'll be a fun wedding.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't leave early. Let's all hang out. You're coming,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. Right. I think we can have it. I think so. Yeah. Pastor Russ knows a lot more than I do. What I know fits that people. Like what's something that you would like to have that we don't? I mean, it's live streaming. I want to be able to have a podcast that I don't know what equipment I need just to be able to have an audio that I can put out because everybody in my gym and stuff like that say that they'd rather listen to something than read something or watch something. And everybody's doing podcasts, so just to grab the audio from that, we may already have the necessary equipment. Pastor Russ and I were working with something to see what we need. So when people, the monitor, the one on the right goes in and out sometimes. Got to get that fixed. I don't know if they've got, the feed to the back. I don't know what that looks like. I think they'd like it to be able to go into the child area so that they have a. When you're yeah. Yeah.
How do you hook the computer up? And does it make a difference? Like if there was a rack and stuff so hot in summertime, on the west side there's a the sacristy would actually be on the east side.
Right.
So on the west side is more historic.
Right. Yeah.
So if there was a rack of equipment, would that be like the perfect spot? Would you rather have the equipment in the rack? Does it make a difference?
I don't know that it makes a difference.
So how would, when you look up, right now, do you have to plug something in?
Right. An HDMI cable, you can either, it comes out the back or it comes out the front. And then you just have to plug an HDMI to the wall of the laptop.
It seems like restricted for our skipping presentation.
checking, keeping an eye on the sound level and all of those things, that's where that goes to. The way it's back in the sacristy, I guess you could station a person back there, but an idea. So I don't know if it's worth doing a big change or not.
If we're doing something, that'd be pretty easy to do, especially if it's just out the table. And now that I've been up in the attic.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't talked to Russ since I saw your email.
Well, I just talked to him because I saw him, so I wanted to
Oh,
know
okay.
a little bit, just.
Got it.
And, really, I think, he doesn't really seem to care. We're gonna try and get John
Ben Becker.
John Becker, I'm not sure.
I was thinking Ben,